Recently, I happened to see a beloved lifelong member of OZ whom I have missed, along with so many of you who have not been in our Zoom services and programs. See you on the holidays, I said, almost tearfully. But he told me sadly that he won't see me on the holidays. He does not Zoom. I asked if I could help. No, he said, I don't have a computer. It's not that he couldn't get a computer, it's that it's not his thing. Another beloved lay leader uncharacteristically declined an honor in our High Holy Day services. With a heaviness in his voice, he shared that he wasn't sure what he would be doing on the holidays, maybe joining other family members in their community services. Our virtual services are not like the ones we are accustomed to enjoying in person, and that is very disorienting. Another beloved member, while helping me to plan our services, worried about the changes we were imagining. I explained. Based on the lessons we have learned through months of virtual services, plus lots of member feedback, and my brainstorming with many colleagues around the country, we had decided to cut our services back to what seems to be the essential segments and prayers of our High Holy Day services. Other liturgical selections, piyutim, poetry, added to the core prayers over the centuries in Hebrew, were this time not essential, so they were cut. Will this be the new normal, he worried? The prospect of so much change has been daunting and worrisome. My husband Bob, along with a few other wonderful volunteers, volunteered to be tech buddies for anyone needing to learn how to use Zoom. After I heard snippets of the conversations from Bob's hours of Zoom training, I came to understand how challenging this experience of virtual services could be, and I began to worry about how well some of our members would be able to remain connected. Overnight, everything had changed. I heard the stresses of this time from some of our members. Hard as we are trying to keep our services, classes, and programs alive and engaging from our homes, we know it isn't the same. That loss is very real for many of us. I've heard distressing and distressed comments like, Zoom gives me a headache, or I hate Zoom, or Zoom does not feel like services. Some shared that it doesn't work for them because we can't sing together. Too many of us feel disconnected, isolated, disoriented, unfulfilled. Even those who have regularly connected with our Zoom services and programs, expressing their enjoyment of these experiences, feel the loss of human connection. One member came to our synagogue cemetery prayers before Rosh Hashanah and recited Kaddish for a friend. But since they didn't have family members buried in our cemetery, I asked, why come for Kaddish? The answer, because the cemetery visit in advance of Rosh Hashanah was the only in-person high holiday event. Today, even while we embrace the joy and possibility of Rosh Hashanah, of a new year, I acknowledge and honor the sadness and grief for what we have lost this year. I know that this sadness may accompany very real worry for the future. Sharing these thoughts with a colleague, he tried to lighten the mood with a story and said, from another era of restaurants with in-person dining, a server approaches a group of Jewish diners after the meal is complete. While clearing the plates, the server looks at the group and asks, without a trace of irony, was anything okay? At the same time that some of us are worrying, others of us are rejoicing. I do not wish to feed the fears that come with change, but here it is. Some of our members are so taken with the benefits of this new reality that they tell me they hope we will never return to the same formats as before the pandemic. We have learned that there can be great benefits of virtual services. Even as some B'nai Mitzvah and baby namings have been postponed, we have had many life cycle events that are suddenly accessible to out-of-town family and friends who might not have been present had the events been in person. Similarly, many of us have shared yard sites at Minions with family and friends joining us from around the country. Shabbat and weeknight services that seemed difficult or impossible to attend for those living at a distance or homebound are suddenly accessible for those who use Zoom. OZ members who reside in other states or who winter in warmer climates can now be with us, even if they're not here. We have met prospective members who could log in for services even before moving to Vermont. And remarkably, though I could not make hospital visits during pandemic times, Zoom helped to make the connections for us. Basha Brody attended services from her hospital bed after hip replacement surgery, keeping up with us now during her recovery at home. During this challenging time of isolation, we have found ways to create opportunities for intergenerational participation with the ability to enjoy the comfort of home while being together virtually. And it has been heartwarming to get to know other Vermonters who have been joining us nightly to say Kaddish during their time of mourning. This would not have been possible if it had required driving a distance for a 30-minute weeknight service. And during stormy nights or slippery roads, we can still be together virtually. We are all here as best as we can and together. Over the years, we have collaborated on special events with Temple Sinai, but this year we found new opportunities to grow our partnership. Because we are virtual, we could bring our two communities together for prayer, learning, singing, and celebrating. Cantor Steve and I have enjoyed the unique ways we've been creating synergies with our colleague, Rabbi Edelson, and the Temple Sinai community. These shared experiences have been enriching and fulfilling. In our time of increasingly hostile partisan divide, I've been worried about the ways that our culture has come to elevate the individual above the collective. It just cannot always be about me, about what I want, what I need, what I believe. This time of pandemic distress has reminded us all how much we rely on each other in making sure that we all can be okay. Midrash records a story that resonates at this time. A group of people, we are told, were traveling in a boat. One of them took a drill and began to drill a hole beneath himself. His companions said to him, "Why are you doing this?" Replied the man, "What concern is it of yours? Am I not drilling under my own place?" Said they to him, "But you will flood the boat for all of us." So it is true about keeping the boat afloat. We need each other, especially now. Cantor Steve and I have received numerous heartfelt, loving, beautiful messages of appreciation from so many of you. One recent note captured it. I wish I could read them all now. I can't. So I'll just share one from Rebecca Sherlock and Mike Strauss. They wrote, "Thank you, Ohavi Zedek, a voice of hope, a beacon of light, and a steadiness and warmth that is so welcome during these difficult times. L'shana tova to all of you who make OZ so important in our lives." Certainly, your messages nourish our spirits during this time of isolation, and we thank you. But even more, it reminds us again and again of the gifts of community. One of the most memorable and inspiring prayers, repeated over and over again during the holy days, Hashivenu, let us return, reads, take us back, Adonai. Let us come back to you. Renew in our time the days of old. Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva. Chadesh yamenu kekedem. Renew in our time the days of old. But what are we being reborn to? This is a confusing question at this moment of so much distress around us, among us, and between us. What will we be? Who will we be when this is over? My friend and teacher, Yossi Klein Halevi, loves to glean insights of Jewish themes in contemporary Israeli music. This summer, Yossi shared a series of contemporary Israeli songs popularized in response to coronavirus. One example is from the Israeli pop singer Hanan Ben-Ari. In a stunning music video, the words are set to stark images of vacant city streets, empty commuter trains, bare escalators. The song, Gagoim Livnei Adam, Longing for Human Beings, reads, we thought we'd won it all. We'd built towers to the sky. Who needs human beings? No second flood will come in our time. We will never, ever fall. Forget it. We'll be fine on our own. We're smart. We know it all. And nothing is above us. Until you came along and infected us and drove us mad and confined us and confused us and terrified us. Who are you? Oh, how you've brought back sanity and a longing for human connection. Suddenly, loneliness torments. We can't fly from place to place anymore. The parks are closed. Weddings with hardly a soul. We've almost lost ourselves. We almost stopped feeling. Soon this will be over, and I'm asking, if I may, that the morning after you leave, let us not be the same as before. Lo nihyeh shuv oto hadavar, let us not be the same as before. Who will we be when this is over? Hanan Ben-Ari sings our prayer for something better yet to come. What does it mean that today the world is reborn, as our Rosh Hashanah Machzor proclaims, Hayom Harat Olam? Our Machzor translates this as, today the world stands as at birth. Today all creation is called to judgment. During a very turbulent time, in the summer of 1963, Rabbi Norman Land penned a sermon for the second day of Rosh Hashanah, 5724, to mine this phrase for its potential to redeem us from great travail. He wrote, each of us possesses wonderful native abilities and marvelous inner resources. Either we can remain forever with our greatest human treasures locked up within our hearts and never brought to fruition, or we can joyously proclaim Hayom Harat Olam, that today we shall express those capacities into reality. For today we shall fulfill ourselves by giving birth to a new and fascinating world. The shofar summons us to break the bonds of habit and indifference that keep our vast treasures locked up and our repositories of goodness and faith impounded within us, to transform into the living immediacy of the Machzor's Hayom Harat Olam. Today the world is reborn. It is the call to release and emancipate our talents, our abilities, our greatness. Our world and our Jewish community is in the midst of a new beginning, and we are becoming forever changed during this pandemic. What will remain when we reemerge? This is our kavanah, our spiritual intention to reflect on this Rosh Hashanah. How can we remain connected, whole, spiritually alive in ways both old and new? How can the creativity and resilience of this unprecedented time carry us forward so that our talents and our abilities can shine? A few examples, just a few, there are many, a few examples come to mind. For each funeral that has allowed family and friends from all over the world to join by Zoom, we learn the value of virtual connection in addition to the in-person experience. For each Shabbat service where we offer a traditional musaf and an alternative musaf of story and poetry, we realize that we can do more once we come back together in person. Each new service, now shortened to accommodate a different attention span on the screen, leads us to wonder what is most essential and what is not. And still, the value and ease of offering alternatives provides a window into how we can affect those changes without undoing traditions that so many hold dear. Our Zoom experience of gathering for prayer will stay with us as streaming and other virtual gateways, in addition to the invaluable experience of being together for those who are able. I pray that those who dislike or can't connect with us on Zoom will find ways to remain connected with us as best they can until we settle back into our new normal. I can't wait to hug every one of you. I pray that we will emerge as a community renewed when we are finally able to gather in person. I believe this will happen as we return again. Hashivenu. I pray that we will bring our best and most helpful new tools and modalities of connection along with us as we relight the flames of community in our sacred space and our gatherings wherever they are. An oft-quoted story from our tradition is Gam ze ya'avor, this too shall pass. It also appears in Sufi literature. The Jewish version goes something like this. The wisest of kings, Solomon, decided to challenge one of his ministers. The king instructed him to search for a ring that could turn a happy person sad and a sad person happy. King Solomon doubted the minister would be able to find such a thing. Still, the intrepid minister set out. The minister traveled the kingdom, but to no avail. Returning to Jerusalem, he found himself in a shabby neighborhood where there was a market. He noticed a man selling some odd pieces of jewelry spread out on a threadbare rug. Desperate, the minister explained to the merchant what he was seeking, a ring that could make a happy man sad and a sad man happy. The merchant smiled and handed him a ring with the inscription, Gam ze ya'avor, this too shall pass. The minister returned to King Solomon and presented him with the ring. Smiling at the thought of winning the challenge, King Solomon took one look at the ring and was immediately humbled. What will we be when we are born and reborn again? This is up to us. Together, we will turn our sadness into happiness, step by step, day by day, toward a new day with a heavenly bright light guiding our path. L'shana tova tikatevu. May you be inscribed in the book of life for good. At this time, as we transition toward our musaf, the very moving sound of the Hineni with expression of deep humility will follow next.